Well, good afternoon everybody. It's the Phonostage Records YouTube channel episode 2. Very overdue. I do apologise. We've had a few things going on here. You can still see by all the grotty finger marks all over the doors and the fact there's no skirting boards. We've had a complete refit in here. Down to the plaster in every room. So, and we've took on a unit and we've been developing the business and some other things going on. We've developed a collection of stuffed dogs. There's one there. There's another one there. So, we've been very busy really. Amassing a collection of scratchy Rush records. Let's just turn this off a minute. So, and we've lost our videographer, Brandon. He doesn't work for us anymore, sadly. You know, great guy, but brilliant, you know, with technology. But he's moved on to bigger and better things. So, so what I've done is I've annoyingly strapped this camera to my head, and I'm going to make this video myself, just to keep things going, really, until I find some other way, maybe using Fiverr or something like that, of getting some good editing done. And, you know, blinging things up a little bit. So what I want to talk about is how to grade a vinyl record. This is something that is a very subjective business, even though, as you can see from the Discogs page here, it's very well documented how to grade a vinyl record. But everybody sees things through different eyes. And, you know, even though there are a number of degrees described here as to how you can, you know, grade a vinyl record and a sleeve and what to look for and what things should sound like. There's so many degrees in between every grading, you know, that it's not really possible to get it 100% consistently right. But I do believe that if you err to the side of caution and if you're very consistent with yourself, so, you know, that you have a very high chance of getting good, consistent results that everybody's happy with. And this is particularly important if you're selling stuff online. I think something like the Phonostage Records shop has on eBay has something like 3,000 positive feedbacks at the moment and 100% positive. And that is based largely on the purchases that people have made for vinyl records, secondhand vinyl records. And so the indications of that is that people are generally very happy with the grading. How they read it and how it's described to them is what they actually receive. And, you know, you can't please everybody. As you know, you can't satisfy all the people all the time. And you do get the odd person who says, this has got deep scratches all over it and da-da-da-da-da, or this is excellent, it's much better than I was expecting, and I may have graded it a VG. You know, life is on a sliding scale, people are on a sliding scale, and you know, I sort of like try and take the fairly consistent middle line. I read the descriptions, I apply them consistently, and then you get some people that are over there and some people that are over there, and that is the same in any walk of life. I think the answer there is just to be able to say to somebody, I'm sorry that you're not happy with it, I'll give you a refund straight away, and give them a refund straight away, because we can't adjust everybody. Great if we could. So what we're going to talk about is what to expect when you're buying a vinyl record. And I suppose, you know, the competition are out there watching, some good tips and advice for how to consistently grade a vinyl record yourself. But this is really for the buyers. So let's just have a little look. We've got a box here, so we'll just pick something fun out of it that I know we've got listed. Okay, not Sgt. Pepper's. We've had a lot of Sgt. Pepper's this week. So we've got Led Zeppelin Presents. Okay, now you can see, you may know this is a later pressing. Okay, and let's see if what we've described in our grading is consistent with what we're actually looking at now. You know, maybe we should try this experiment with something graded a couple of years ago. So the sleeve is nice. There's a little bit of deformation there, you know, just from the record being stored in it for a long time. But really, it's more about evidence of storage than it is about evidence of handling or excessive use. The edge isn't very fluffed or anything like that. They tend to get fluffed with, you know, People opening it, closing it. So it's quite an old record. It's still a few years old. So let's have a look at the actual record itself. Now this has a scratch on it. I can just about feel it. It's got a bit of a faint scuff there and a faint scuff here and a very faint. These are sort of faint in a way, not of a sleeve removal type. These are what I would call placement scuffs. So maybe this record's history is something like, I've been taken out my sleeve and played and put down somewhere, played again and put down somewhere else, played again and put down somewhere else. So the records had more use than the actual sleeve. So explaining the good sleeve. So let's start with the record, okay? Now, I'm going to find it on our eBay store. So here we go, Phonostage Records. Search this shop, so you've got many things here. All kinds of interesting things, record players, pictures. Jimi Hendrix, of course. Right, sorry, I think I'm looking down a bit low there. I'm still getting used to this camera being strapped on my head. So, search this shop. There's an actual fly on the top of the monitor. That's the perils of having the door open. Right, okay, so it's called Presence, as we are aware. Okay, here we are. And other things coming up. Right, okay, so it's Led Zeppelin Presence, and it's a 1976. It was released. I don't think this is not a 1976 pressing. So, and what have I graded it? Let me just see. G plus VG plus. Now, underneath all my listings, you can see there, I have an abridged version of what you saw on the Discogs page. One of the big differences that you'll see here, and this in fact is a slightly abridged version of the Goldmine record standard. Now, I did read a thing recently, which was the Goldmine 101, and it did, in the comments underneath it, it did talk about, you know, how people grade things and the absence of the grading excellent in this. No, there is no excellent. So there's VG plus, and that's the closest you get, and you jump straight from there to near mint. Now, I very rarely would grade anything near mint, and I would never grade anything mint. Mint is for records made of unobtainium. You know, they do appear every now and then, and you know, they're so unobtainably nice. It's better than new, really. You know, like new plus. And that doesn't tend to happen. It might be the most special pressing from the most pristine factory, and it may have just come straight from there to you and never been opened and never been touched by a human hand. And, you know, you may decide to call it mint, and you may be right. But by and large, dealers tend to shy away from that because they do feel, I think, that they may fall short of the mark by somebody else's eyes. There's a high probability of it. But excellent, I do believe you should have. And so do many, many other people out there. So my version is the same as many other dealers, and a slightly abridged version of what you'll see on the Goldmine record standard. But on this particular record, getting back to this hasn't been graded particularly highly. Okay, it's a G plus and a VG plus vinyl sleeve. Now, G plus to me is it has been played so much the sound quality is noticeably deteriorated, perhaps some distortion and mild scratches. The cover and content suffer from folding, scuffing edges. Well, forget about the cover, that's graded separately. But the grading that I've gone for here, G, good. It does look as though this record falls above that. You know, it doesn't look like there's any, I mean, the scuffing that's on it is so faint, it's imperceptibly faint. This reads more like a very good or better. But the issues are around that scratch. And not only that, when you read the description, okay, it says there is a minor warping rotation. It does not affect play, but it's clearly visible. So this has been downgraded, probably from a VG plus, on the strength of the slightly feelable scratch and then the warp. So it's a double whammy. I did read on the Goldmine standard, it said, or the Goldmine article that I read, that VG may have the occasional light scratch that could be just felt with a fingernail. Now, I don't tend to agree with that. If something can be just felt with a fingernail, I don't tend to include it as VG. It's either good plus or VG minus. I think if they're non-feelable but really quite visible scratches and it's on the crackly side, but still very enjoyable, it'll get a VG. I believe if it's very clean with just a couple of very minor marks, it'll get VG plus. And if there's no obvious marks, just a few light wispy marks when you look at it in good light and the occasional static level or maybe a little tad higher crackle, but a sharp, clear, dynamic sound, the sort of thing that's worth sitting in between your speakers for, it would get an excellent. Now, let's have a look at this and see why we've only given it a G+. Start with the scratch. I can just feel that with my fingernail. It's got some depth to it. But you know, it's not a scratch that's going to jump. My highly trained eyes will tell you that. Do with a clean, it will get a clean before it gets eventually shipped out. Okay, let's have a look. So, spinning it up now. I can hear the little click as it goes round. Stop. I'm having a minor problem. I've got a problem with blockers. This was supposed to be the bit where you listen to the Led Zeppelin clip and you can see the little warp and you can hear the little scratch and all that sort of stuff. Isn't that right? Yes. And yeah, unfortunately, it got pulled straight away by the blockers, whoever they are. And if you watch Rick Beato, which I suggest you do, his series on what makes this song great is absolutely fantastic. I don't know what I said then, but Siri thought I was talking to it. Yeah, if you do watch that series, you'll see that one of Rick's big problems is that he does educational music videos, and he encounters problems with big record companies, corporations blocking the videos when he isn't actually making any money out of them. So just demonstrating the Led Zeppelin record to you clearly was enough to trigger the blocking robots. So I'll probably replace that section at some point with something far more innocuous, you know, maybe something that you've never ever heard of. So I will do another demonstration of a warped and crackly record, you know, with a few examples. But for now, use your imagination, imagine the crackle, imagine the warp, and back to you. Once you've gone past the click, you're going to have a very clean sounding record and you can be reasonably happy with it. Not one for the collector, one for the user and abuser. And that's why I've given it a G+. It looks, at first glance, like a VG+. And then you knock it down a bit. You knock it down for the scratch. And then you knock it down again for the unevenness. And I've ended up with a G+. And I've ended up with a VG+ on the sleeve. Odd little things like this. Tiny bit of rubbing at the bottom there. Just a slight bit of deformation here. Very, very minor. Just enough to shy me away from excellent. Now you might say, whoever you are, that you don't agree with me, which is fine. As I said, it's a subjective business and not everybody agrees with everybody else. That is the joy of these things. The guide is there to try and help everybody to agree with everybody else or to try and increase the consistency that's out there. But, you know, it's very difficult. You know, you're dealing with people on a wide spectrum. People in the middle, as I say, people right over there, and people right over there. Now, I think my 3,000 positive feedbacks are largely people in a sort of decent bandwidth in the middle. And then I get the odd person who's either ecstatic at this end or extremely disappointed. It's got scratches I could plant potatoes in, they say, but it hasn't. Over that end. Those people are either going to be very happy or very unhappy, and if people aren't happy with the purchase, I would say to anybody who sells vinyl records, just give them the money back straight away. Don't quibble, don't argue, it really isn't worth it, because some people will always see things through different eyes than other people will. I'm not going to turn this into a stark social commentary, but let's just say that there has to be a degree of acceptance both ways. The seller for the buyer and the buyer for the seller. So based on a system of mutual understanding and fairly consistent guidance and lots of practice, we should be able to buy records distantly with a reasonable amount of confidence, and I think it's great for people to go to a record shop and buy stuff, and we're in the process of opening somewhere where people can come and buy stuff directly off us. But my Japanese buyers and my American buyers don't get that opportunity, and this is really good for them. So there's my thing on grading vinyl records. What to expect, what to look for when you're looking for records to buy secondhand online, what to think about if you're selling records secondhand online so that you don't break everybody's hearts. So with that in mind, I'll put the Rush LP back on, which is also a little bit crackly, but there you go. And I'll leave you till the next episode. If you've got any comments, if you want to ask anything, or if you want to say anything about your experiences of vinyl grading, just put them in the comments underneath the video, and I'll reply to whichever ones I can. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Bye.